Hey guys, coming to you this morning, trying to make my first video here. Excuse me if it's a little, kind of flip-flop. Trying to do this to help a few people out. I really want to talk about two topics this morning, two that I feel can exponentially help you as far as your dieting process goes, or as far as your fitness journey goes. It really applies to everything. And that's basically going to be insulin and insulin sensitivity, and I'm going to talk about why those two things I feel are two of the most important factors when you're trying to diet, build muscle, to basically just keep a healthy lifestyle in general. And I've got some of this stuff written down here so I don't lose track. Basically, insulin is the most anabolic hormone that you produce. It's the powerful force for driving that nutrient uptake into your cells. It helps shuttle both your glucose and your amino acids into your muscles. Glucose for use as fuel, which we store as glycogen for workouts and basically your daily activity. Also your amino acids that help contribute to both that repair and growth for when you exercise. It's extremely important to note that your insulin is your most potent. It is the most powerful fat storing hormone that we have. It is the main driver of your glucose and fatty acids into fat cells, which ends up leading into increased body fat, guys. That makes managing your insulin one of the most important factors for putting on muscle and limiting your body fat accumulation at the same time. This is something that I've experimented with for the past 2 years, had exponential increase in both my energy, my muscle gains, my overall healthy lifestyle. It just seems to work extremely well, and I feel so much better. I feel like this is how my body is supposed to run. And everybody that I put on the diet says, wow, I feel like this is how my body is supposed to run. And there's reasons for that. Basically, with your traditional linear bulking or your normal diets where your calories are constantly elevated, your insulin begins to lose its anabolic effects over time, okay? Which leads to that higher accumulation of body fat and less muscle growth. Insulin functions as its own feedback signal. So the more insulin that you make, and the more often you make it, the less sensitive that your body becomes to it. So let's take type 2 diabetes, for example. Your body makes the insulin, but your cells do not use it as effectively as they should. And that's called insulin resistance, which is what we're talking about. Also, with that, your ability to make insulin can gradually decrease as time goes by, which is obviously bad. The body begins to ignore the constant stimuli from any hormone over time. It's like walking into a room with a really loud fan, and at first you notice the noise, but because you're in there for so long, you kind of tune it out. Same with anything. So your body does more than just signal when the insulin is too present too frequently. It also downregulates your production of insulin receptors, which we were just talking about, which refers to as insulin resistance. In the case of insulin resistance, your insulin production increases because now it takes more insulin to control your blood sugar. Your blood sugar stays elevated because the cells aren't receptive to insulin and glycogen uptake, so your body keeps producing more and more insulin to do that job. What used to be done by much, much less of a response. That can also lead to hypoglycemia, which is low blood sugar. The net result is basically that your blood sugar starts to run high all the time, and you have a constant elevation of insulin as well. That's when your body fat starts to really pack on. And this is where a lot of people have problems, is because the average person wakes up and let's just say that they are late for work. They'll grab something that's quick, that's easy, that's full of sugar. The first thing that they're doing in the morning when our leptin levels are highest is that they're grabbing a sugary snack or a soda or coffee filled with sugar, or they're eating some kind of bad carbohydrate from McDonald's. Whatever the case may be, you're automatically going to blunt that fat burning hormone for the day. And even with something as far as, let's say, oatmeal or anything that's in the same category, those may be a slower release, and they may not cause as much of a spike, but they still regulate your blood sugar throughout the day. So by the time you hit that lunch and you're feeling kind of tired, like you haven't slept, that's because of that response, that insulin response. Insulin wants to put you to sleep. It is raising your blood sugar. It wants you to keep spiking it. So by the middle of the day, you grab a soda, you grab some more coffee. There you go. You just added another spike, and then you're gonna dip further and further down. Your energy levels are gonna look like a bad flow chart. Um, we want to kind of avoid that. So what's taking place is that you're creating so many insulin spikes a day, and then what's happening is you're becoming more and more resistant to it. Therefore, your body needs more and more sugar to run. Um, it's like the person that starts off as a coffee junkie and they have 1 cup, and then all of a sudden, in a couple months, they're up to 6 cups because their body can't cope with just having 1 cup anymore. It needs more and more to run. It gets worse. Um, your body fat is just going to start packing on. Your traditional linear bulking or meal diets or whatever you're doing, typical people's food, um, take up glycogen mostly in bursts after your exercise or during large spikes of insulin, which is when your blood sugar and your insulin are only slightly raised. Um, your body stores that circulating glucose as body fat to keep your blood sugar under control. That's why long-term bulking programs lead to large amounts of fat accumulation. And to me, it's grossly ineffective because I'd rather not put on 50 to 60 pounds in 6 months, which is extremely unhealthy, obviously, if that's not obvious to you guys, I don't know what is. Only to shed the weight for the next 6 months to come out with a maybe 5 pound net gain. That's not feasible at all. It doesn't sound like a smart approach to me. And for natural people like myself or everyday people, that's not a feasible thing. When we're talking about bodybuilding versus normal everyday life, it's a completely different end of the spectrum. I want people to live a healthy life, and I believe in holistic ways to do that as far as regulating your hormones, making sure your adrenals function properly, making sure that your brain is functioning properly. We want to make sure that we have proper gut health and things like that. So in time, all these insulin spikes that you're creating will get worse. Along with increasing your fat gain, when you enter a state of insulin resistance, it actually becomes harder for you to gain muscle. And I'd say that's above 15% body fat because your body is just going to be in such a fat accumulated state that there's no muscle growth happening. You have to remember, like we talked about, insulin is your most anabolic hormone. So when you stop making as many receptors, it decreases your ability to shuttle those nutrients into your cells during and after your training. So your recovery and growth are literally being starved, despite you consuming larger amounts of calories. If I encounter a client they're trying to do a bulk and they aren't seeing any muscle gain and they're over 15%, 20% body fat, I'm not going to cut their calories drastically, but I am going to cut them a decent amount so they can get back to those proper functioning levels where their hormones and their adrenals work properly so they can continue to add body mass instead of actual body fat in the form of lean muscle. So basically, if we look at the opposite end of the scenario, you're cutting on lower carbs and lower calories, your insulin sensitivity is affected very differently. When you keep your carbohydrates and your calories low, insulin levels are low. And so glycogen levels in your cells, they start to shrink. Your body responds by shifting to using more fat for fuel to conserve the remaining glycogen in your tissues. But it also increases the number of insulin receptors your cells have, so that when you do take in carbohydrates, you can quickly and efficiently start to use those for glycogen stores for repair and growth. This makes it very easy for you to get nutrients to your muscles after training to recover and grow. I want everybody to burn their carbohydrates, okay? It's imperative that you use them at times when you actually need them the most. You have your liver and you have your muscle glycogen, okay? So if I'm using muscle, even this takes muscle glycogen, okay? This takes energy. So if I've had, let me rephrase. If you have not completed any kind of resistance activity or anything that is demanding on your muscles, you will not expel muscle glycogen in great amounts. So anytime you eat a carbohydrate or anything that has sugar, fruit, candy, soda, whatever, it's not even going to look at your muscle glycogen. It's going to go straight to your liver because you have muscle and liver. Anytime your muscle is not being replenished, which will always be replenished first. If you've had a hard workout and you go home and you want to eat 300 Pop-Tarts, whatever, you will not see as much of a fat accumulation because it is going directly being uptaked into your muscle glycogen or muscle glycogen stores, okay? It will not even look at your liver. It's physiologically impossible. So that is how we want to keep a healthy lifestyle. We want to make sure that we're not creating these constant spikes of insulin. We want to keep our insulin sensitivity high. And you'll notice that this will give you increased neurological function, increased energy, increased fat burning constantly throughout the day, um, and also it's going to help you in time regulate your gut, regulate your insulin, which is the most effective thing that I've found thus far. I've been training for 4 years, and as a natural person, this has been a godsend. Um, I feel amazing all the time. My energy levels never plummet. When I get into the gym, I don't need a pre-workout because my neurological functions are not impaired. You have somebody that's taking in carbohydrates and creating insulin spikes all day. And then what they do is they take a pre-workout. So basically your mind is jittery because your body's trying to do two different things. It's like being overly tired, and then you're trying to do the opposite. So it's like those two byproducts within a pre-workout and you being insulin spike for the day is basically going to cause you to short circuit. Um, when we swap over to using fat for energy, those kinds of things don't happen because we'll have an insulin spike decreasing our neurological receptors when we go to do certain activities. And if you have any questions about as far as what we've talked about today, feel free to message me on Facebook. You can also contact me on how to set up diets and things like that. I'd be more than happy to help. Okay? We want to make sure that we're living a healthy lifestyle and that we want to do it right. Okay? If you want to find out how to do that, you can contact me. You know how. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next time.